Oftentimes, before you take a deep dive into any one specific tool, you're going to want to be able to see and build that big picture. The course Speedrun, your first end-to-end workflow, available on learn.palantir.com, is a great place to do that. Hi, I'm Gina, and I'm going to be walking you through this course. In this course, we're going to take raw data sets, create an ontology, and eventually put it all together into an operational application. Before we get started, a quick word from our founder.
Discover how Palantir customers unlock more value from Foundry and AIP thanks to our live instructor-led trainings. We are Ontologize, a group of former Palantir engineers who love teaching. We've trained thousands of Palantir users at leading organizations around the world. Unlock the full potential of your Palantir deployment by going to ontologize.com.
You're going to begin from learn.palantir.com and make sure you're logged in. Now you're going to go to Courses, and you're going to navigate to Speedrun, your first end-to-end workflow, and click on it. And now make sure you're registered for the course, and then we're going to get right into it. Over the course of our work together, we're going to build a fully functional end-to-end workflow. Now, this course is not going to go into all the detailed ins and outs of each step. This is about the big picture and to give you a taste of how everything fits together. So now let's go through some permissions and help. So here, you're going to make sure that you have all of these permissions to these respective apps. And of course, a link to the documentation and a way to provide feedback to Palantir about the course. Now, let's talk about the use case. In this scenario, we work for Office Goods Corp, which is a paper and office goods company. Now, in this scenario, our company acquired a competitor, Bureau SAS. Now, we're in a bit of a pickle here, where we're tracking and managing orders on two different systems. And perhaps they've survived for a little bit, but after some time, things are going to start to fall through the cracks. And so that's where we come in. We're going to help fix this. So now we're going to create a simple operational tool designed for the fulfillment department that is going to connect to both systems. And it's going to create a location for managers to assign orders, show what orders haven't been assigned, and what's at risk of not being delivered. And here's a high-level overview of what this is going to look like. Here we can see a big picture of what this is going to look like. We're starting with a source system. So there's some external system. Now, we use Pipeline Builder to consolidate orders from the two fulfillment systems. We create a unified order dataset. Then we build an ontology. And finally, we create an order inbox to support fulfillment operators and fulfillment managers. Now, of course, we're going to have a Foundry project. If you already have a Foundry project, you can definitely skip this step. Regardless of if you have a project, you're going to want to have a course-specific folder. And so right now, let's navigate into the platform and go make that folder. So right from the home page, you're going to navigate to Files and go find your learning project. Now, if you don't have one, you can hit New Project and follow the steps to create a project. If you do have a project already, you can go ahead and click into it. And now you're going to make a new folder here. So hit New, Folder. And you're going to call this one Speedrun, your first E2E workflow. And you're going to click into it. And this is where all of our work for the course is going to live. Now that we've created a course-specific folder, we're ready to move on. Let's move on to the ingestion step. All of this is built on data. And so the first step is getting that data into the platform. Now, there are two ways for you to get data into the platform. One is through downloading the data sets here and then re-uploading them, which is what I'm going to do. But if you prefer, you can also deploy the data sets via Marketplace. Now, if you're doing a manual upload like I'm doing, you can click that, download, download, and download. Now that we've downloaded the data, it's time to upload it to Foundry. So from your empty folder, you're going to hit New, Upload Files, and you're going to hit Choose from your computer. And we're going to grab these three, 1, 2, 3, and hit Open. Now, this is very important. Make sure you hit Upload as individual structured data sets. And now you're going to hit Upload And then you're going to hit done. We now have our 3 data sets uploaded. Let's keep moving. So now we've uploaded our data sets. In a typical operational use case, you're normally going to be ingesting data sets using data connection. So in this case, we're not actually connecting to a live source system, but ordinarily you would be. Take note though, everything we're about to do would work just the same from this point onward if we were using data extracts from a data source. Now we're going to move on to transforming the data. So in the next steps, we're going to clean up the data sets, join them with our master customer list, and then union them so we have one single unified data set containing all of our orders. Now, there's a couple of different ways to clean up your data and transform it in Foundry. The way to do that does not involve code is Pipeline Builder. Now, if you're looking for a pro code tool, that would be code repositories. So we're going to hit next. And now we're going to create our new pipeline and add data. Let's get to it. From your folder, you're going to hit new. And you're going to search for Pipeline Builder. Now you're going to click on Pipeline Builder. And you're going to give it a name. Let's call this Orders Pipeline. You'll see the location is defaulting to the current folder that you're in. And now we're going to hit Create Pipeline. And here we are in an empty pipeline. Now, we're going to start here by adding data. So now we're going to hit Add Foundry Data, and that's because we've already uploaded the data into the platform. If you haven't yet, then you would use one of these 3 options, but we're going to hit Add Foundry Data. You're going to hit 1, 2, and 3. So add all 3 at once, and now we're going to hit Add Data. So now here we have our 3 data sets in Pipeline Builder. Note that we can click on each one and see a preview of that data set. Now we're going to start with cleaning Bureau's orders. Now we're going to click on this one. And you'll see, when in doubt, click on a node in Pipeline Builder and you'll see all of these options pop up. In this case, we're going to use Transform. So you're going to click on Transform. Now it's best practice to give your transforms names. So we'll call this Clean Bureau. And now we'll take a look at our data and understand the cleaning steps that we need to do. So if we look at our data, order ID, fine, customer ID, fine. Everything else seems fine. Quantity is an integer, good. Now, order due date, according to the course, we're going to cast this from a date to a timestamp. And so you're going to search for cast. And now you're going to click on cast. And the thing that we're casting is going to be order due date. And we're casting this from a string to a timestamp. And we're replacing that original column. Now you're going to hit apply. Next up, we're going to do some filtering. So we're going to filter to make sure that order ID is not null. So you're going to search for filter. You're going to click on filter rows. And we're going to filter for, so here you can type in order ID. Now make sure you choose order ID, the column. So you're going to click on order ID. And we're going to be checking for order ID is not null. Now check the box to treat empty strings as null. And now we're going to hit apply. And now lastly, we're going to search for normalize column names and hit apply. And now we've applied all the changes we need to clean Bureau. Make sure you hit apply if you haven't already and close. And now we've done it. Now we're going to clean the orders from Office Goods Corp. So you're going to click on that node and click on Transform. And you're going to call this one Clean Office Goods. So here we're going to search for cast. And now we're going to be casting due date time from date to timestamp. So due date time. And we're casting that to a timestamp. Make sure you're overwriting the original value and hit apply. Next up, we're going to search for filter rows. And so we're going to be keeping rows where if you click on columns, where order ID is not null, and we'll be treating empty strings as null. And now we're going to hit apply. Now, before we do that, we're actually going to drop some unnecessary columns. So you're going to search for drop columns. And the column to drop is going to be order, placement, and date. You don't need that one. And hit apply. Now we're going to rename columns. So you're going to search for rename columns. And the column that we're renaming is due date time. Now, to match the other data set, we're going to rename that to order due date and hit apply. Now, finally, we're going to normalize our column names. So you're going to search for normalize column names and hit apply. Now that you've done all these changes, you're going to hit apply if you haven't already and close. Great. Now we have cleaned up Bureau and we have cleaned up Office Goods. So up next, we're going to join the Office Goods and customers data to make sure that we have that good customer information on the Office Goods dataset. So you're going to click on Clean Office Goods. So we're going to be doing a left join, and Clean Office Goods is going to be the left side of the join. So you're going to click on Clean Office Goods, and you're going to hit join. Now, a join, of course, needs two data sets, and the other side of the join is going to be consolidated customers. And now we're going to hit start. Now it's going to be a left join, but before we go on, let's rename this join. So join Office Goods. And so we're going to be joining on customer ID equals Office Goods customer ID. You'll see here that there's two customer IDs. We got to make sure we're using the right one. Now here, let's make sure we're bringing in the right columns from the right side data set. We don't want to bring in Office Goods customer ID or Bureau customer ID because that's going to become redundant. So uncheck those if you haven't yet. And now make sure you hit apply and then close. Now we're going to join Clean Bureau with customer list. So same thing we did last time, but this time for Clean Bureau. So you're going to click on Clean Bureau, which is going to be the left side of the join. And you're going to hit join. Now for the right side, once again, it's going to be consolidated customers. And now we're going to hit start. So we're going to call this one join Bureau. It's going to be a left join once again, and we're going to be looking for where customer ID is equal to Bureau customer ID. Now, uncheck these two columns because we will get ourselves a redundant data set otherwise. And now we're going to hit apply and then close. Now, at this point, our pipeline is starting to get more complicated, which means we might want to reorganize it a little bit. To do that, you can click on Layout in your upper left. And here, you'll find things look a lot better. Now that we've created two joint data sets, we're going to union them together. So first, we're going to click on Join Office Goods. And instead of Join now, we're going to click on Union. So you're going to hit Union. And now you're going to click on Join Bureau for the other part of the union. And now you're going to hit Start. Now let's rename this to Union Orders. And now we're going to hit Create Union. You'll see that by default, this is unioning by name. And now make sure you hit Apply and Close. Now let's explore our union data. So if you click on this node, you're going to see a preview of that data right here. You should have 11 columns. And it should look something like this screenshot in the Learn.Palantir course. Now, at this point, we have a nice looking union data set, but we can't actually use it anywhere other than this current pipeline builder pipeline. In order to create a data set that we can use throughout the rest of Foundry, for example, to do further analysis on, or maybe back in Ontology, we're going to have to materialize this as a dataset output. So to do that, you're going to click on Union Orders. hit Add Output. You're going to click on New Dataset, and you're going to call this dataset All Orders. All 11 columns from union orders is going to be mapped. And now we're going to save and deploy, and then hit Deploy at the bottom. Now we're going to hang tight while our pipeline finishes deploying. But as a reminder, right now what it's doing is it's materializing this as an actual dataset output that we can now use in the rest of the platform. And now our build has completed successfully. And now we're ready to move on to the next step. Now, as a reminder, there are some advanced topics in the world of pipelining that we didn't touch on. So for example, branching and custom code and promoting code to prod, pipelining best practices, or scheduling data refreshes. But this is going to cover the basics of how to take your data from raw to clean. And up next, we're going to create the ontology. So in short, you can think of the ontology like a digital twin of your business that is composed of objects. So in ontology world, instead of thinking about your business in terms of data sets, we think about the business in terms of the entities and the relationships between those entities. And in addition, which we'll get to later, the way that users interact with those entities. So we're going to go define the order object by using the Ontology Manager app. So let's go do it. Now, this is all saved, it's deployed, you can leave it behind. So now you're going to hit Control-J and search for Ontology Manager. Now, you know you're in the right place when you see a little blue cube. Generally, a cube in Foundry means ontology or object. So you're going to click on Ontology Manager. And here we are in Ontology Manager. Ontology Manager is where you configure your objects, the links between them, and also the actions to modify them. Now, for some of you, you'll notice that the New button is not available to you. There's a couple of reasons that could happen. You may be on an ontology that you don't have edit access to, in which case you might want to switch ontologies. The other option, if you don't have access to this New button, is to create a branch. But as long as you have the New button, you're going to hit New, Object Type. And now you have two options, continue without data source or use existing data source. Lucky us, we have a data source, so we're going to click on Use Existing Data Source. Select Data Source. Now, the way to find that data source that you just made is if you go under Speedrun, your first end-to-end workflow, which should be in your recent files, you're going to see this data set called All Orders, and now you're going to hit Select. And now you're going to hit Next. Here, you can give it a custom icon if you like. We're going to call this Gina, or your name, Order. Now you're going to hit Next. Now, every object needs a unique identifier. So the primary key is the property on the object for which it's different for every single object. The title key is more about the UI. This is kind of the headline for each object. So you're going to click on Primary Key, and we're going to set the primary key to Order ID, and the title key to Item Name. Now, you'll notice the title key is not necessarily going to be unique for every object, and that's okay. Now, the other thing to notice here is that we're taking the columns from the dataset and using them to derive the object properties. So object properties are just like columns on a dataset. And now we're going to hit Next. Don't select anything here, and now Create. Now, if you have an invalid API name, like I do, you can add some sort of suffix to it. So I can add LP for Learn Palantir. But if not, don't worry about changing anything. And now we're going to hit Save, and then Save to Ontology, and then Save Changes. Now you'll see that there is some spinning stuff happening here. So this is the index process. This is the process by which your data gets indexed to the ontology backend. And so here, if we click on Index Status, we can see what it's doing when it's doing it. Now, note that it's going to take a couple minutes for this index process to finish. So we're just going to hang tight until it's done. And now our indexing process is completed and we're ready to move on. So now that we've built our ontology, it's time to move on to building our workshop. There are more advanced topics in ontology than what we covered, but that can be for another time. Now we're going to move on to building our workshop application. So here, we're going to create a tool that solves the fulfillment department's problems. Now, what is Workshop? So Workshop is Foundry's ontology-aware operational application development tool. Now, the iteration time in Workshop is very fast, and it's also a no-code tool, which means you can go from idea to prototype very rapidly, and that's what we're going to do. This is more or less the dashboard that we're going to end up with. Let's go build it. So from here, you're going to hit Control-J, and you're going to search for Workshop. Now, you're going to click on Workshop, and you're going to hit New Module. Now, this module is going to be called Gina, or your name, Orders Inbox. Now, you're going to hit Save. And so here we are in our empty Workshop module. Now, note that this is not what your users are going to see. Right now, we're in edit mode. So we're going to start by adding an object table. So on this left side, so widgets are the building blocks of Workshop. You're going to hit Add Widget and click on Object Table. And now the object set, so this table needs to get its data from somewhere, and it's going to come from the object that we just created. So here, you're going to click Select Object Set Variable, hit New Object Set Variable. Now, name your object set. It definitely helps for organization. And you're going to call this Order Object Set. Now, the starting object set is going to be all objects of the type Gina order. So I'm going to grab that one, which is the one I just made, and hit Select. So now our object table has objects in it, but they don't have a lot of information. And so make sure you're clicking on the table, and on the right-hand side, you're going to hit Add All Properties. Now, you can't see them all yet, which we're going to fix. Note that we can reorganize these properties by dragging them around. And so if we want to add a default sort here, we can scroll down to Default Sort and sort, for example, by item name, A to Z. Now, let's tweak some of the formatting here. So let's rename that title key, and we're going to rename that to item name. Now, let's deal with the elephant in the room, which is that we can't see a lot of this table. And so to fix things, you're going to click the Layout section on the left, and you'll see that our app right now is composed of a page. That's this guy here. And that page has two children, a section and a section. And you'll see that the object table that we just created lives in a section. Now, the problem is it's not taking up as much space as it should be. So over on the right-hand side, you're going to see that we now have the settings for the section. And so you're going to change this, the column width, which is how much space is it taking up width-wise. We're going to change that from absolute to flex. And we're going to bump that flex parameter up to 2. And now it's taking up an appropriate amount of space. And up next, we're going to add a filter. So that's going to enable our users to filter the orders that they're seeing in the table. So we're going to hit Add a Widget on this side. And you're going to click on Filter List. And let's add an object set to back this filter list, because we have to get our filter options from somewhere. So you're going to click on Select Object Set Variable, and it's going to be Order Object Set. Now let's add some filters. So we're going to hit Add Filter, and you're going to click on Item Name. So that's our first filter component. Now let's change the component. Right now you'll see we have checkboxes. Let's change this from being a histogram to a multi-select dropdown. So that's cleaner looking. And now we're going to hit Add Filter. Keep adding all those filters. So assignee, consolidated customer ID, customer name, days till due, order due date, order ID, quantity, status, and unit price. And now let's go fix these filter components so they're a little bit more compact. So assignee, instead of a histogram, is going to be a multi-select dropdown, consolidated customer ID, same thing. Customer ID Also a multi-select dropdown. Customer name, same thing. Days till due. You'll see you have no choices here, so we're going to leave that as in. Order due date. It can be a timeline or a date range picker. We'll keep it as a timeline. Order ID, multi-select dropdown. Quantity, no choices here. Status, multi-select dropdown. And unit price we'll keep as is. Now note that we can toggle on this option that allows users to add and remove filters to customize what they're seeing. Now you'll see if you scroll down way to the bottom of this filter list configuration that this widget outputs a variable. And so the variable that this outputs, filter list 1 filter output, stores the user selections from the filter. So if you filter by anything here and click on this variable, you'll see it stores the user's selected criteria. Now for organization, let's rename this. And we're going to rename that to order filters. Now I'm going to get rid of this filter. Now let's go put this filter output to use. So to do that, we're going to make a new variable that takes the orders and filters them using this variable. So here we're going to navigate over to variables on the left, click the plus sign. We're going to make a new object set variable. It's going to be an object set definition. And you're going to call this one filtered orders. The starting object set here is going to be order. You're going to hit select. And now we're going to filter using a variable. So you're going to click on filter using a variable, and we're going to filter using that filter output variable order filters. We're still not done yet. So now we have two variables where this object set variable is responding to a filter, but the table still has the old variable. So you're going to click anywhere on the table. And now the backing object set for this widget is order object set. And you're going to click out of that and instead select filtered orders. And now you'll see that the table responds to our filters. Now let's go configure how our filter is displaying. So here in the filter list widget, you're going to navigate to display, and you're going to change the background color to light gray 4. And so now our component is gray. And now let's click on the section that contains this widget. And we're going to rename this section title to filter your name orders. And you can add an icon here. We like to do a filter icon for a filter list widget. And now we're also going to toggle on collapsible. So what that does is it means the user can get rid of this if they want more space. Now under the icon to expand, we're going to change the icon to menu close. And then for icon to collapse, it's going to be menu open. And now let's change the header format to contained. And then change the background color to light gray 4. And now we've applied a bit of formatting, and note that you can alter the formatting for whatever you want. Now let's add a new section to our app. So you're going to click on the object table, and you're going to hit split section and new section on the right. And that's our new section. Now click on that section, and you're going to toggle on the section header. Now we're going to delete the title, and we're going to change the header format to contained. Now up next, we're going to add the object set title widget. So you're going to click on this plus icon in the top left, and you're going to search for object set title. So you're going to click on object set title. Now, in this area, we want to display details of the currently selected order. And so here, the input object set is going to be one variable that we didn't actually make ourselves, but has been here for a while. So here, under this dropdown, you're going to see a variable called object table 1 active object, which stores the user selection. So when a user clicks on a row here, that object is stored in that variable. So you're going to hit select object set variable, and it's going to be object table 1 active object. And now we have the name of the currently selected object. And up next, we're going to add a button. So we're going to hit Add Widget, and we're going to add a button. Now look at the formatting here. You'll see it's filling up an awkward amount of space. So we're going to toggle on Fill Available Horizontal Space in Row and Column Layouts. And now we're going to click on Display and change the row height to Auto Max. And so that means that this section that contains the button is not taking up too much space. Now under the button group, we're going to add a property list. So here we're going to hit Add Section, Add Widget, and we're going to search for Property List. Now we're going to be displaying properties of the currently selected object. So the input object set variable is going to be object table 1 active object. Now you won't see anything here because it has no properties. So here you're going to hit Add All Properties, little blue button. Now right now it's displaying in 2 columns, and you're going to want to change this to 1 column. Now if you want, you can also turn on Enable Value Wrapping, which will make the values stop getting cut off. Up next, we need to rename this object table section. So here, we're going to click on this. And you'll see I can just type in the new name here, All Orders. But I can also modify it right here. And so here, I can give a special icon to show it's a table. So if you search for TH, you'll see this one here. And that represents our table. Now we're going to add a section below this one here. So here, we're going to hit Split Section and hit New Section Below. And this is where we're going to have some charts. And now here, we're going to set the layout to be columns. So that means that the widgets within this section are going to be sharing space horizontally. Now let's do a little bit of housekeeping here. So first of all, we're going to give this one a section header, and we're going to call this Charts. Now, it's really small. We can deal with that in a second. But mostly, these look very awkward when they're so smashed together. And so we're going to click on Layout. And we're going to click on the section that contains all of these things. And we're going to add some padding. And so that's going to add some nice space between these 2 sections. So I'm going to click on, under Padding Controls, I'm going to click on Compact. And now that looks slightly better. And here for the border style, we can make this borderless. And we can also do something like make these contained. Now let's navigate to this chart section and make sure it's taking up enough space. So let's make it flex. And it looks like things are really squashed right now, but we'll have more room when we go into view mode, so you don't need to worry about that right now. So now in the charts, now that we have done a little bit more formatting, let's add these charts. So here in the left section, we're going to hit Add Widget, and you're going to search for Chart, and you'll see Chart Pie. So you're going to click on Chart Pie. The input object set variable is going to be our filtered orders. So you're going to click on Filtered Orders, and you're going to group by status. So this is going to give us a pie chart of orders by status. Now you'll see here, there's an option to show the legend. So we're going to toggle on Show Legend. So you have an option to toggle on the legend, but if you don't want to toggle on the legend due to the space it takes up, you can read the labels perfectly fine without a legend. And now let's move on to creating a bar chart. So on this side, we're going to hit Add Widget, and you're going to search for Chart. So you're going to click on Chart, and you're going to click into where it says Layer, Bar, and the object set here is going to be Filtered Orders. Now the X-axis property is going to be days until due, and now we're going to be segmenting it by, and so we're just going to be looking at the count, and we're going to be segmenting by status. And now we're going to go back to the global controls, so back to the chart editor. And you're going to hit Customize under Bar Orientation, hit Customize, and we've changed this to vertical. Now we have our charts section, but let's say we wanted to move that. So instead of having to rebuild everything from scratch, what we can do is click on the header of this section and hit this up arrow. And now these 2 sections have switched places. Now let's go back and do some more configuration on our table. So let's go reorder some columns in our table. And so we want to reorder them so that customer name goes first, and then we have item, and then status, and then assignee, and then days until due, and everything else can come after that. Now that we've built out most of our app, it's time to save our work. So here, you're going to hit save and publish. It's good to save often when you're working in Workshop. And now, I did promise you that things wouldn't look so squashed when you're in view mode. To prove it, if we click on View, which you can open in a new tab, you'll see here that we do indeed have enough room for everything to display. We have a read-only dashboard now with basic filtering capabilities. But the next step is to make it interactive and operational. In fact, we have a button that currently doesn't really do anything. Now, note here that in the course, they have relabeled the button, which for us is currently just called button, to view full details. Now, we're not going to be doing that with our button. We're going to eventually wire up our button to trigger an action. So if your button is not called view full details, don't worry about it. You've done everything correctly. We're going to make that button do something. Now, let's move on to configuring actions. So if you think about objects and links as being the nouns of the ontology, you can think of actions as being the verbs. In every organization, there are decisions and operations that people throughout the organization take, and we can encode those in the ontology as actions. Now, tangibly, what actions are events and edits that are performed on a set of objects or individual objects in the ontology. In the case of an order, we might create a new order or delete an incorrect order, or something similar. Now, in the next section, we're going to create an assign order action. So it's going to set the assignee of an order to whoever you say it should be, and it's going to set the status to assigned. So now we're going to hit next. And we're going to get back into building. Back in the platform, you're going to navigate to Ontology Manager, but make sure you keep this workshop module open because we're going to want to come back to it. So you're going to hit Control-J and search for Ontology Manager. And you're going to open this in a new tab. Keep your workshop open. We still need it. And now you're going to see some recently viewed object types. You should see yours there, Gina order, or you can search for it. So you're going to click on Gina order or your name order. And now you're going to navigate to data sources and toggle on allow edits. That will enable us to configure actions that modify instances of this object type. And so now we're going to go to new, click on action type. And we're going to be making a modify object action. And so we're going to click on modify object. Now make sure for the type, we select your name, order. You'll see that some of these objects are grayed out, and that's because they don't have edit enabled. So you're going to click on your order. We're going to be modifying an object, and now you're going to hit next. Now we're going to be modifying two properties. So we're going to be modifying assignee and then modifying the status. Now assignee, that should be something that a user fills out themselves. We don't know what assignee they want to assign the order to. But for status, if we know that what they're doing with this action is assigning somebody the order, well then surely we know the status is now assigned. So we're just going to hard code status to assigned. In the current state, assignee and status are both being derived from parameters, and parameters means fields in the form. So when we eventually develop a form for our users to fill out, that means that these properties are being mapped to fields. But again, the property status should just be a static value. And so we're going to change this to assigned. And now we're going to hit next. And we're going to modify the name here to be Gina or your name, assign order. And now we're going to hit next. Now, in terms of who can carry this out, if you're on a training stack like us, you can have your whole organization do it, or you can set it to just you. And now we're going to hit create. And now let's take a look at what we have here. In the overview, this is describing at a high level, what is this doing? In the rules, we have the concrete steps that we're taking as part of this action, which is we're modifying the order object, and we're modifying these specific types. Assignee is going to be a form in the field that a user fills out. And the status is hard-coded to assigned. Now, if we look at parameters, you'll see that there's only 2 parameters here. Of course, the user has to select which order they want to modify, and they have to input the assignee. And now we're going to save to Ontology and save changes. Note that this created action type will be immediately available for us to apply in Workshop, so we don't need to wait for a reindex or anything. There's of course more complexity to think about when you're configuring actions, but this is where we're going to stop for now on actions. Now that we've created an action, we're going to wire it into our Workshop to make our application operational. So now, if you still have your Workshop module open, you can navigate to that tab. If you don't have it open, you can navigate to Recents, and it will almost certainly be here. Or you can always use the global search to search for it. Regardless, make sure you're in your Workshop application. So back in our Workshop, this button that's been here the entire time, so note that again in the course, they've labeled this button View Full Details, but we're actually going to be using this button as our Assign Order button. And so you're going to click on that button, and that's going to take you to the button configuration. So you're going to click into button 1, and we're going to rename this. We're going to call this Assign. Now, buttons can actually do a lot of different things. They can trigger events. So for example, layout events, they can open pages, they can switch pages. They can also trigger actions. So we're going to click on Actions. And the action specifically is of course going to be Gina Assign Order. It should pop just right up, or you can search for it. Now, here's the problem. When we click on this button, you'll see that it doesn't by default populate the order that we selected. Recall that in this workflow, we've selected a order and we're viewing the details. And when we hit Assign, we should expect to have that order selected by default in this dropdown, but it's not. Let's fix it. So you're going to click back into the button configuration, and we're going to assign a parameter default. So you're going to click on parameter default, and we're going to set a default value for Gina order, which is the object parameter that this action takes in. And the local default value here is going to be, you guessed it, object table 1 active object. So now we're automatically feeding the user selection from this table as a prefill into this button. Now let's also color this button. So if you click on Assign, we can change the intent to blue by hitting primary. So now that we have wired up our action with our app, let's take this for a spin. So we're going to hit Save and Publish, and then click on View. And remember, even if in edit mode, everything looks a little squashed, in view mode, things are going to look a lot better. So here we can collapse and uncollapse our filters. We can see our table. So for example, I can filter for the orders that have the lowest days until due. And those are probably the most urgent to deal with, and maybe sort ascending by days until due. Take a look at this one that has no assignee. And then hit Assign. Then I could assign list to a colleague, Ben Thomas. And then hit Submit. And now you'll see that not only has the assignee updated to Ben Thomas, but you'll see that the status is now assigned. And that concludes our hands-on work. Now we've produced an operational dashboard for the fulfillment department that uses a single source of truth for this now merged organization. And note that there's a lot of things that we could do to make this better going forward. We can enhance visualizations, send email notifications to users when they get assigned an order, add a comment section, replace static data file inputs with live feeds, control who can assign and mark, close an order, automatically generate audit trails, and write back the actions, say, to assign an order to transactional systems in real time using webhooks. But this took us through the basics, and now you've seen the whole process end to end. And now, of course, you can continue your learning by taking other learn.palantir.com courses. And don't forget to claim your badge and provide feedback to Palantir on the course. Great work, everyone. Thanks for watching. We hope you found this helpful. Let us know what you want to see next in the comments.